I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Emily for about 5 years now. We met in college, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. She was smart, confident, a little bitchy at times, but I liked that about her. Especially because she always seemed to have a sharp tongue and a quick comeback, which I thought was kind of sexy. We got married pretty young, right after she finished her degree, and life seemed to be smooth sailing for a while. But lately, everything been off. Small things at first. She started coming home late more often, claiming she was working late or out with friends. She'd go quiet when I asked about her day, and I noticed her phone was glued to her hand more than usual. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe I was overthinking it. I was busy at work, stressed, caught up in my own stuff. But then I started noticing little signs that didn't add up. She'd leave her phone in the other room when she went to the bathroom or to bed, and I'd catch glimpses of messages that didn't sit right. Short, cryptic texts from numbers I didn't recognize. She'd quickly close her phone if I came near. I remember one night, I was scrolling through her messages while she was in the shower. Yeah, I know, I shouldn't have gone there, but I was desperate for some truth, and I saw conversations that made my stomach turn. Flirty, intimate stuff that clearly wasn't about normal friendship or casual chatter. The kind of talk that makes you realize something's really wrong. But what really tipped me off was a night about 2 weeks ago. I came home earlier than expected because of a sudden meeting cancellation. When I walked in, Emily was on her phone, and I could see her hiding the screen quickly. Her face went pale, and she looked at me like a rabbit caught in headlights. Her excuse: "Oh, I was just texting my sister. Nothing important." Yeah, right. I wasn't buying it. That's when I started paying more attention. The next day, I snooped through her stuff when she was out, found her phone again, and this time I was more thorough. I discovered a string of messages with her best friend, Sarah, that made my blood boil. They were talking about going out for some fun, how Emily was feeling lonely, and more disturbingly, how she loved the idea of sneaking around and having sex with Sarah's brother, Mike. I couldn't believe my eyes. They had plans to meet up that very night. I felt sick. My wife, my partner, was planning to cheat on me with her best friend's brother, and I was completely oblivious. I think I just stood there reading those messages over and over, trying to process what I'd just seen. It was like being punched in the gut. All the little signs, the late nights, the secretive behavior, it all made sense now. She'd been lying straight to my face, and I'd been stupid enough to miss it. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly just numb. I didn't even know what to do with myself after that. How could I have missed all this? How could she have lied for so long? And the worst part, the way she always dismissed my concerns, called me paranoid or jealous when I brought up her changing behavior. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just kept staring at my phone, debating whether I should confront her right then or wait until morning. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I had to confront her. I had to hear her lie to my face or admit everything. I was furious, hurt, and completely lost. I didn't want to lose her, but I knew I couldn't stay married to someone who would do this to me. I had no idea what was coming next, but I knew my life was about to change forever. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a knot in my stomach. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was fine or hoping it would all just magically go away. I had to face her. So I got up, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and waited. Emily was still asleep, her chest rising and falling softly. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to gather my thoughts, trying to decide what to say. When she finally woke up, I looked her straight in the eyes. "We need to talk," I said, voice calmer than I felt. Her face immediately fell, and she looked guilty, but she also had that defensive edge that I knew all too well. She sat up, crossing her arms. "What's wrong, Jake? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't hold back. I laid out everything I had found, every message, every suspicion that had been gnawing at me. Watch her face carefully as I spoke. Her eyes flickered, and I could see the moment she realized I knew everything. Instead of panic or remorse, she just rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, come on. You're being paranoid. You don't have proof of anything. You always jump to conclusions." I kept my composure for a second, then shook my head. "No, Emily, I saw the messages myself. You're planning to cheat on me with Sarah's brother, Mike. How long has this been going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady but feeling my pulse pounding in my ears. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk like I was just some minor inconvenience. Look, Jake, you're overreacting. Yeah, maybe I've been talking to Sarah about feeling lonely, but that doesn't mean I'm sleeping with Mike or cheating. On you, you're making a huge deal out of nothing. Her words were as dismissive as ever, but I knew better. I saw the truth in those messages. I don't believe you, I said sharply. How can I? Your phone says otherwise. You're lying, Emily. I've had enough of your BS. You've been lying to my face for months. How much of what you told me was even real? I was furious at this point, my voice cracking with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. You think I don't see the way you're avoiding me lately? The late nights, the secretive calls, I was blind, but I'm not anymore. She rolled her eyes again, scoffing at me like I was some jealous idiot. You're being ridiculous. You're overthinking everything. Honestly, I don't even know why I married you. You're so insecure. I never cheated, Jake. Maybe I flirted a little, but that's not the same as cheating, is it? Her words felt like knives. I couldn't believe how she lied so easily, how she spun it to make herself the victim. I don't buy it, I said coldly. You lied to me about everything, about us, about your feelings, about what you want. I don't know who you really are anymore, Emily. I trusted you, and you've been screwing around with my best friend's brother. How much more are you lying about? What else have you kept from me? Her eyes flashed with anger now. You're crazy, Jake. You think I wanted this. I was just lonely, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. It's not like I love Mike or anything. It was just sex, a stupid mistake. We're just humans, you know. Sometimes we do stupid things, and honestly, I don't see why you're making such a big deal about it. I felt my fists clench. Her words, her attitude, they made me sick. She was so good at hiding her manipulations, twisting everything around to make me the bad guy. I knew I had to get out of there to think everything through. But I also knew I couldn't just leave her like this, not without taking some kind of action. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't be around her right now. She snapped at me, called me paranoid and insecure, and said I was overreacting, that she still loved me, that she would never cheat on me, but I knew better. I saw what I saw, and I wasn't going to pretend anymore. That day I packed a bag, left the house with my mind racing, trying to process the betrayal, the shock, the heartbreak. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach again and again. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? The woman I thought I knew was just a mask. I couldn't trust her anymore. Not after seeing those messages, not after realizing she'd been lying about her feelings herself. I spent the night staying with a friend. The whole time, all I could think about was the betrayal, the lies, the fact that I'd been completely blind to the truth. I hated that I felt so stupid, so naive. But I also knew I couldn't just forgive and forget. Not after this. Not after everything I'd seen. I knew I had a decision to make, whether to fight for a marriage that felt broken beyond repair, or to finally accept the truth and walk away. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and anger. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and honestly I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug, bitchy smirk she always gives when she thinks she's got the upper hand. It made me sick. I kept replaying everything I found, trying to convince myself I must have missed some clue, some sign I overlooked. But deep down, I knew the truth was right there in front of me all along. Emily had been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. I kept thinking about her excuses, her constantly telling me she was tired, stressed, busy with work. She'd always dismiss my concerns with a wave of her hand, call me paranoid or insecure. And honestly, I used to buy it. I thought maybe I was overreacting, that I was just being jealous or controlling. But now, looking back, all those signs suddenly made sense. The late nights, the secretive texts, her dismissiveness when I asked about her day, they all pointed to one thing: she was hiding something. I decided I needed to confront her again, but this time I wanted to be ready. I wanted to understand her reasoning, if she even had one. That meant digging a little deeper. I installed a little app on her phone, nothing crazy, just enough to see her messages, her calls, her location. I wasn't trying to stalk her, but I needed to know what she was hiding, and what I saw was even worse than I imagined. She was actively sneaking around, lying about where she was, and texting Mike and Sarah like they were her new best friends. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd trusted her entirely. We'd planned our future, talked about buying a house, having kids someday. All of that felt like it was crumbling just beneath my feet. I kept thinking about the moments I missed, her laughing with her friends, the way she kissed me good night, the times she told me she loved me. Were those lies too? Did she ever love me, or was I just the guy she settled for while she secretly cheated? One night, after I'd gathered enough evidence, I decided to confront her again. I knew I had to face her face to face, not just through messages or sneaky spying. It was the hardest thing I ever did. I called her and told her to meet me at that little coffee shop where we used to go. I wanted her to see just how much I knew, how betrayed I felt. When she arrived, her usual bitchy smirk was still there, but I saw the flicker of nervousness in her eyes. We sat across from each other and I didn't waste any time. I pulled out my phone, showed her the messages I'd saved, screenshots of her talking about Mike, about sneaking around, about having sex with him. Her face went from confident to defensive in seconds. "That's not what it looks like," she spat out, trying to brush it off. "You're overreacting, Jake. You always do this, blow things out of proportion." I shook my head. "No, Emily, I've had enough. I saw everything. Your lies, your games, your little secret world. I trusted you, and you've been fucking someone else behind my back during my sister's wedding, no less. How could you do this? How could you lie to me and act like everything was fine?" She looked like she wanted to cry, but her pride wouldn't let her. "You don't understand," she snapped. "I was just lonely, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. I love you, but I also need to feel alive. Sex isn't everything, Jake. You're so insecure, always accusing me, controlling. Maybe if you weren't so jealous, this wouldn't have happened." That hit a nerve. I felt a surge of rage boil up inside me. How could she sit there and trivialize it all, her lying, her cheating, her dismissiveness? She made it sound like I was the problem. Like somehow I was the one at fault for her screwing around. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and make her see how much she'd hurt me. But I didn't. I just looked at her, exhausted and furious. "Don't bother," I said coldly. "I've had enough. I don't even know if I can trust you anymore. All I know is I want out of this. I can't keep living like this, wondering if the person I married ever really loved me or if she was just pretending all along." I got up, leaving her sitting there, stunned, eyes wet but still defiant. I didn't want to stay and argue anymore. I just wanted to get away from the lies, the betrayal, and the woman who turned out to be someone I no longer recognized. That night, I went back to my place alone. The silence was deafening. I kept asking myself how I'd let it get this far, how I'd ignored so many warning signs. The pain was sharp, but there was also a strange sense of relief. I knew I had to move on, even if it hurt like hell. I realized that I had been so eager to believe in the fairy tale and her promises that I'd ignored the real, ugly truth, that she was capable of lying and cheating right in front of me. Now I just feel numb. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I'm done trusting her, and I'm done pretending that everything's okay when it's not. I need to heal, rebuild, and figure out what comes next. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever fully get over this. But one thing, for sure, I won't be a fool again, not trusting someone who's proven they can lie so easily. The days after that confrontation were some of the hardest I've ever gone through. I felt like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the smug smirk, the way she'd dismiss everything I said. It was like I was haunted by her betrayal. I kept replaying everything she'd said, all her lies, trying to find some way to make sense of it. But there was no sense, just a deep, aching sense of loss and betrayal. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen it sooner, how I'd been so blind to her lies. I'd always thought Emily was confident, sometimes bitchy, but honest. Turns out she was hiding a whole other side, one that cheated, lied, and played me for a fool. I thought about the wedding, how happy I'd been, how I'd never suspected she'd be capable of something like this. Seeing her with those messages, feeling her loyalty shift to someone else, broke something inside me. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down. I reached out to my best friend, Mark, to talk. I needed someone to hear me, someone I could trust. He was furious when I told him what I found, especially about her sleeping with Mike. Mark knew Emily well enough to see through her bullshit, and he didn't hold back. "Dude, she's a bitch," he said. You deserve better, you're better than that cheating trash. Hearing that helped a little, but I still felt numb. How could someone I loved so much be capable of this level of deceit? How could she look me in the eye and lie like that? I also started questioning everything about us. Our relationship, our future, every moment I thought was real. Were the nights she said she was working late really just her sneaking around? Did she ever genuinely love me, or was I just her backup plan? All those questions haunted me. I was angry, heartbroken, and deeply betrayed. And worst of all, I felt so stupid for not seeing it earlier. One night I found myself scrolling through her phone again, even though I already knew what I'd see. I couldn't stop myself. I needed more proof, more clarity. And what I saw confirmed what I already knew deep down. She'd been lying for months. There were messages of her flirting with Mike, talking about how she loved the thrill, how she wanted to be with him secretly. She even joked about how it was hot, knowing she was cheating on me during her sister's wedding. That was the moment I realized how much she didn't care about me, about us. I felt sick. I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just walk away without some sort of final blow. So I started planning how I'd confront her again, how I'd tell her I knew everything and that I was done. I wanted her to understand just how badly she'd hurt me, how broken I felt inside. I didn't want to scream at her, at least not yet. I just wanted her to see how much her betrayal had devastated me. The day I decided to do it, I sent her a message telling her to meet me at the same coffee shop. I needed her to face me, to see the pain in my eyes. When she showed up, confident as if she still thought she could spin her way out of it, I just looked at her and said, "Emily, I know everything. I saw your messages. You cheated on me during my sister's wedding. You lied too. My face for months. How could you do this? How could you betray everything we had?" She snapped, acting all hurt and confused. "Jake, you're overreacting. You don't know the full story. I swear I never loved Mike. It was just sex, a mistake. I was lonely, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far, and I still love you. You have to believe me." Her voice was trembling, but I saw through the act. I wasn't buying it anymore. "No, Emily," I said coldly. "You don't get to spin this. You lied, you cheated, and you used me. I trusted you, and you threw that all away. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. I don't know if I even want to try anymore. I just know I can't stay with someone who lies and cheats like this. I'm done." She looked furious, then angry, then hurt. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You're insecure. That's why you're acting like this. You think I'm some kind of slut, but that's not fair. I love you. I want to work through this." But I knew better. I knew I could trust her anymore. Not after everything I discovered. And honestly, I didn't want to. That day, I left her sitting there, seething. I walked out of that coffee shop knowing I was finally free from her lies. I didn't look back. The pain was still there, but at least I was finally facing the truth. She was a liar, a cheat, and she'd been playing me for months. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't stay in this toxic, broken relationship. I needed to heal, to move on, even if it meant starting from zero. And deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of a long road to recovery. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of chaos and reflection. I moved out of the house, stayed with a friend, and tried to get some semblance of normalcy back in my life. It was hard to focus, hard to function. Everywhere I went, I kept seeing her face, that bitchy smirk, the way she dismissed me like I was nothing. I kept replaying everything she said, everything she did, and I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How did I not see her for who she truly was? How did I let her manipulate me for so long? I spent a lot of time alone thinking about the betrayal. I was angry at her, but I was also angry at myself. I kept asking, why did I trust her so blindly? What was I missing? It's weird how someone you think you know so well can turn out to be completely different behind closed doors. I felt stupid and humiliated, but I also couldn't help feeling relieved. The truth was out now, and I finally had my answer. I knew I'd never look at her the same way again. I also started to realize how much her lies had affected me emotionally. I'd lost my sense of security, my trust in relationships, even my ability to believe in love again. I'd spent years thinking I'd found someone I could count on, and it turned out she was just pretending. Every memory we shared suddenly felt tainted, like I'd been living in a lie the entire time. It was difficult to accept, but I knew I had to start rebuilding myself piece by piece. One thing I did was talk to people who knew us both. My sister and some friends told me they saw signs, but none of them wanted to interfere. They were angry on my behalf, but they also told me I deserved better. I remember my sister pulling me aside one day and saying, "Jake, you're too good for her. She's a manipulative liar and you're better off without her bullshit." Those words stung, but they also gave me clarity. I couldn't keep living in the shadow of her lies. I also reached out to a counselor to help me process everything. I needed to understand how I'd let this happen, how I'd been so blind. Talking to someone who wasn't emotionally involved helped me see things more clearly. I realized I'd been trying to hold onto a fantasy, the idea that Emily was perfect, that everything was fine. But the truth was, she was never that person. She was a liar, and her betrayal proved that. I had to accept that, forgive myself for not seeing it sooner, and learn to move forward. As painful as it was, I started to focus on myself. I got back to the gym, reconnected with old friends, and even tried to find new hobbies. I needed to rebuild my confidence, my sense of self. And I also started to think about what I wanted in the future. I knew I didn't want to stay in a relationship built on lies. I wanted honesty, respect, and someone who truly cared about me. That meant letting go of Emily completely. I knew I'd never trust her again, not just because she cheated, but because she lied so effortlessly. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this mess. Trust is fragile, and I should have been more cautious. I allowed myself to ignore the warning signs because I loved her and wanted things to work. But love isn't enough when someone's lying to your face every day. I should have listened to my gut, paid attention to the small signs. Now I see it clearly. She was never the person I thought she was. She was just a pretty mask hiding a much darker truth. I won't say I've fully healed yet, but I'm on my way. I'm learning to forgive myself for the mistakes I made, forgiving her for her betrayal, and most importantly, I'm starting to rebuild my life without her. It's a long road, and it's going to be painful at times, but I know I'll come out of this stronger. I just wish I'd realized sooner that the person I loved was never really there, just an illusion I had to finally shatter for good. Now, looking back, I realize the biggest lesson I learned is how easy it is to be blinded by the image we want to see in someone. I was so caught up in the idea of us, in the life I thought we had built, that I ignored all the warning signs. Her constant dismissiveness, late nights, secretive behavior, all of it was screaming at me, but I refused to listen. I guess I wanted to believe in the fairy tale so badly that I ignored the reality staring me in the face. The betrayal hurt more than I can put into words. Finding out she was sleeping with my best friend's brother, especially during my sister's wedding. That was the moment I realized how little she truly valued me, our relationship, or even her own integrity. It's a sickening feeling, knowing someone you loved so much could be so completely dishonest. But I also learned that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to finally see the truth clearly. I've come to accept that some people are just not who they pretend to be. Emily was a master manipulator, and I was a fool for trusting her blindly for so long. It's a hard truth to swallow, but it's better than living in denial. Now, I understand that I deserve honesty and respect, and I won't settle for less ever again. I've started rebuilding my confidence, my boundaries, and my sense of self. It's not easy, and some days are worse than others, but I know I'll survive this. Most importantly, I've learned to listen to my instincts. Never ignore those little gut feelings that tell you something's wrong. They're there for a reason. If I had paid attention earlier, maybe I could have saved myself a lot of heartbreak. But I also forgive myself for not seeing it sooner. Sometimes we're too close to the situation to see the truth, and that's okay. The important thing is, I finally see it now. I want to end by saying this. If you're going through something similar, don't be afraid to face the truth, no matter how painful it is. Trust is fragile and it can shatter in an instant. But figuring out the truth, no matter how ugly, is the first step toward healing. It's never easy to let go of someone you loved, but sometimes walking away is the best thing you can do for yourself. Remember, you're worth more than the lies, the betrayal, and the heartbreak. Take care of yourself, rebuild, and never settle for a love that isn't honest.